Intarsia is the technique used to create separate sections of color within a knitted piece. You can see from this simple example that I have this white square in the middle of red knitting. If I were to knit this piece, I would be knitting the bottom all in red with one skein of yarn. But then when it comes time to introduce the color section, I need to use separate skeins of yarn or bobbins of yarn to work each section. So I would work this section with one skein of yarn in the red, then join a new one with the white, and then I need to add a separate red skein or ball of yarn to work this side. So then I would come back and work the red, the white, back with the red using my separate sections. The trick to Intarsia is that every time you change a color, you need to interlock your yarns to prevent a hole. I'll show you on the wrong side of the knitting what the interlocking looks like. Every time I change the color in a row, I twisted or interlocked my two colors together, the old color with the new color, so that it prevents a hole. And that's what I'll be demonstrating. I'll be demonstrating a very simple Intarsia pattern where I'm going to work 3 different colors just to show you how the technique works. So the first thing that we need to do is to knit, and typically Intarsia is knit in stockinette. So you may be following a chart or written instructions that will tell you how many to knit with the one color. So now my chart or instructions tell me to knit these 5 stitches in my white yarn. Now it's time to add the pink yarn. So I drop my old color to the back of my work and pick up my new yarn, leaving about a 6-inch tail, and go ahead and join your yarn as you usually would and knit that first stitch. But now we have to interlock this new color that we've joined to our knitting. So we do that by dropping the new yarn to the back, and then we are going to pick up the old yarn and bring it over the new yarn. So you need to secure it over here in your left hand. I kind of just pinch it in between my fingers, and you'll find what works best for you. Then bring the new yarn over that old yarn. You can see just by having that held that you put it on top of the old yarn. When you go to knit, it comes on top of it, and that is what interlocks it. So then I go ahead and knit my next stitch with the new color. Now I can drop that old yarn. By holding it, it keeps your tension even as you are knitting. So I'll show that joining again. So now I'm going to add my green yarn to my work, and we are going to drop the old color to the back, pick up our new yarn, leaving about a 6-inch tail, and go ahead and join that new color and knit 1 stitch with the new color. Drop the new color to the back, pick up the working yarn of the old color, bring it on top of that new yarn, kind of secure it to the left, then bring the new yarn up from under that old color, keeping a little tension on that with the old yarn, and knit. You can drop that old color, and now all of my new colors are successfully joined and interlocked into my work. So now it's time to turn the work, and we are going to work on the wrong side, remembering to interlock at each color change. If you forget to do the interlock, you will get a hole in your knitting. So on the right side, or the knitting side of this project, we did all of our interlocking on the wrong side. You do the same thing when you get to the wrong side. You want to keep the interlocks all on the wrong side of your work. So here I come to my color change. I am going to bring my old yarn to the left, and on the purl side it works for me just to kind of hold it together with this left needle. Then I bring my new yarn up from, it comes up from under that old yarn, and go ahead and purl that next stitch. And you can see that that interlocked it. And again, I'm coming to my next color change. I will bring my old yarn to the left and secure it. Bring my new color up from under that old yarn. Purl that stitch. It is now interlocked. I can drop the old yarn and go ahead and continue to purl. Now let's show how to interlock on the knit side. So we're back on the knit side. The last row that we knit, we were actually joining new yarn. So this time we're not joining the new yarn, but we do need to interlock. So let's go ahead and start knitting with the white yarn. And here I am at my first color change. So I'm going to take my old yarn, bring it over to the left, over my new yarn. You can see that I bring this down here, my new yarn is over here, so it came on top of it. And now when I bring that up, see how it comes over the old yarn, the old color? So when I do that, that is the interlock. And once I knit that first stitch, I can let go of my old yarn and then keep knitting the required number of stitches with the new color. Color change again, so I'll drop my old color to the back and kind of hold it in my left hand, give it a little tension. Bring my new color up from under the old color and go ahead. You can see that that comes, you can see that well. That's what locks it. Go ahead and knit that first stitch, drop the old yarn, and keep knitting. We're getting a nice little pattern here. I'll turn it. We'll do the purl side one more time. Purling to the color change. Remember, on the purl side, we do our interlocks on the wrong side, and we could take a second here to see this is what the interlocks look like. So you can see that they really make a little weave here so that we prevent any holes. So I'm here at the color change. I will take my old yarn, bring it over to the left, bring my new yarn up from under that old yarn, and purl away. I'm interlocked. You're going to get, as you do this, you'll get a bit faster at it. You can do all kinds of fun designs. Color change, so bring your old yarn to the left and get a hang of it. Bring your new yarn up from under it and purl. And there we've done a couple of rows, and you're starting to see just a little very simple rudimentary design emerge here. I wanted to show you one last thing. I talked about that most often Intarsia is done in stockinette, but not always. So if you come across a pattern that is a little different, I'll show you how to do the interlocks there. Let's change this pattern to where the white and the green stitches are in purl, and we'll leave the pink in knit. So I will go ahead and purl these white stitches. Now we always want our interlocks to be on the wrong side of the work. So here I am at the color change, and even though my working yarn is in the front, I bring it to the back, and then I bring my, securing it kind of in my left hand, get my new color, the pink yarn, and bring it up from under that white yarn. And these stitches are going to remain in knit. Now I can drop that old yarn. So it's really just the same, but we have to remember to do the interlocking on the wrong side. So now I've finished the knit stitch, but I'm going to do these stitches in purl this time. So even though I need to bring my green working yarn to the front, I want to do my interlocking on the wrong side. So bring your old color to the left, and before you bring your working yarn to the front, you need to interlock it. So bring your new yarn, the green yarn, up from under that pink to the front, and then I can purl. So this way, I now have it locked, and there will be no holes in your knitting. So this technique works in all stockinette or changing various stitch patterns. And that's the basics of Intarsia. Happy knitting!